Discipleship, Matthew 28:16-20. Pope Francis once said, "A disciple of Jesus who doesn't serve others is not a Christian." A true Christian disciple of God never knows when they will be called upon to defend God or the faith. You might not know that you demonstrate your discipleship every moment of the day by your actions or inactions. In today's gospel we read Matthew 28:19, "Go therefore and make disciples of all nations." Our illustration of discipleship and being called on to defend God takes place in a barber shop. A man went to the barber shop to have his hair cut and his beard trimmed. As the barber began to work, they began to have a good conversation. They talked about so many things and various subjects. When they eventually touched on the subject of God, the barber said, "I don't believe that God exists." "Why do you say that?" asked the customer. "Well, you just have to go out onto the street to realize that God doesn't exist. Tell me, if God exists, would there be so many sick people? Would there be abandoned children? If God existed, there would neither be suffering nor pain. I can't imagine loving a God who would allow all of these things." The customer thought for a moment but didn't respond because he didn't want to start an argument. The barber finished his job and the customer left the shop. Just after he left the barber shop, he saw a man in the street with long, stringy, dirty hair and an untrimmed beard. He looked dirty and unkempt. The customer turned back and entered the barber shop again. And he said to the barber, "You know what? Barbers don't exist." "How can you say that?" asked the surprised barber. "I am here, and I am a barber, and I just worked on you." "No," the customer exclaimed. "Barbers don't exist, because if they did, there would be no people with dirty long hair and untrimmed beards, like the man outside." "Ah, but barbers do exist. What happens is, people do not come to me." "Exactly," affirmed the customer. "That's the point. God, too, does exist. What happens is people don't go to him." Most suffering in the world comes from craving or focusing our desires on objects, positions, power, control, or money. We rely on people who oftentimes disappoint us due to their flaws and weaknesses. These are short-term earthly sufferings. We need to turn away from temporal desires to eternal or heavenly desires. Don't be very concerned with what others think about you and your discipleship, but be careful what you say and do so that God may help you with every action or word. Discipleship is not easy, but like our friend in the barber shop, the unkempt man in the street was God's solution to our friend's dilemma. Luke 12, verse 11. "When they take you before synagogues and before rulers and authorities, do not worry about how or what your defense will be, or about what you are to say, for the Holy Spirit will teach you at that moment what you should say."